and welcome to Inside the Green Room, our pre-show live experience before we jump into our main show of the evening. I'm actually going to drop the accent because I'm not Liv the Druid today. I am Olivia Harding. You may remember me from Ren Talks, and you usually see the Gwendolyn from the Gwendolyn show here. She is off Gwendolweening, but don't worry. She left me with a special drinking game, as she always does. So we will be reading those rules at the end of this interview. But this is a very special episode of Inside the Green Room because we are interviewing Rick Nestler. Hello, Rick. How are you doing?
Doing just fine, Olivia. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm glad. It's a pleasure to have you. Rick Nestler is one of our featured performers today. He is the man behind Phillip Hole, the singing gravedigger. And so, Rick, how did that character come to be?
Well, that was the management had a regular character called Phillip Hole, who was the gravedigger. And when they gave me, they made me Phillip Hole. But because I had auditioned as a musician, they used to have a slot at the New York Renaissance Fair in the cast for, I think it was 2 actor musicians. Otherwise, you were either an actor or a musician. But they needed another actor musician, so they gave me the job. So they called me Phillip Hole, the singing gravedigger, because they knew I could sing.
And which festivals have you performed at? So we have New York Renaissance Festival.
Well, the New York Renaissance Fair is my home fair, or it was. And I also played at the Cloisters down in New York City for a good number of years, at least 5 or 6 years down there. I appeared at the Maryland Fair with the Crimson Pirates. And let me see, there's a couple of, and I was a part of 3 Pints Shy too.
I didn't know that one.
Well, the one year they had some trouble with a lot of people getting sick, and they had a contract with the Connecticut Fair, and so they asked me to go in as their at least the 3rd pint. So it was myself and David Wayne Anderson and Robbie Taylor.
Nice.
So I did that with them.
Those are 3 pints that I would love to see.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're a lot of fun to play with. They're a little more crazy than I am. Somebody's got to stay on the stage and let them know there's an act going on. They tend to wander out into the audience a lot. And somebody's got to be able to stay up there and actually play guitar for them. So,
yeah, you're the anchor. They always need that one anchor.
Well, yeah, I'll take that. Yeah.
There's a chance for anybody watching who knows 3 Pints Shy. You should look them up anyway. They sort of semi-officially retired, but we have some of their footage. We're hoping to put together a socially distanced return of 3 Pints Shy. So that's something that our audience might be able to look forward to. Speaking of audience, your Aussie fans are enjoying this interview. What time is it? Wait, unless it's Australians abroad, but if you're actually watching from Australia, hats off to you. That is amazing.
Yeah, it's something like 8:30 in the morning or something out there.
Wow. And then we have a question from Sierra. How long have you been performing as Phillip Hole specifically?
I did 15 years as Phillip Hole.
Wow.
I still got some CDs left over.
Amazing.
Every once in a while, Phillip will come out of the closet for a gig or two, but I'm not working fairs that much these days. Well, nobody's working much these days.
Yeah, so. Good point. Oh, our question has been answered. It's 7:35.
7:35. I was an hour
Thank you for waking up early. Waking up early with us. So we were briefly talking about it before the camera started rolling, but I decided to dress up a little bit for Halloween. I used to be a pirate, so I've got the hat on, but I know that you've been a member of Crimson Pirates, but I understand that you're also an actual ship's captain.
That's right. I have, well, in the real world, we just call it a 100-ton ticket. But according to the Coast Guard, I am certified. I'm a certified master of steam, motor, and auxiliary sail 100 tons and under.
Wow.
I usually sail on traditionally rigged schooners and sloops, things like that. My last sail command was an 80-foot schooner called the Argia, sailed out of Mystic, Connecticut, Steamboat Wharf.
Wow. And have you performed as a general folk singer at Mystic, or have you been mostly a captain there?
Actually, I've played at the Mystic Sea Music Festival at least a dozen times. I've also done the walk around shantyman routine with a couple of friends of mine up there. They've Jeff Kaufman, who does a great job of running their programs up there, is an old friend of mine, and there have been times I've just dropped by the museum and end up singing with either him or Don Sinetti, a couple of the other people up there.
For any of our audience who doesn't know, so at Mystic, Connecticut, they have historical tall ships. Is it the Morgan that's the main one there?
The
Or...
Charles W. Morgan is the star of the show. She was originally built in 1840, and they actually refurbished her, and in 2014, they actually took her out to sail again.
Oh, wow.
She came to the museum, I think, in 1941. She was almost 100 years old then. Actually, she was a year older than that, 101 years old, came just before World War II. And she's been at the museum up until 2014. She never really left the dock except for maintenance. But they fitted her out and sent her out to sea, and she's in sailing trim again.
Wow. I once performed at the Mystic Sea Music Festival, and they put us up. I was a college student at the time, so they knew that they could basically just place us anywhere overnight. And so it wasn't the Morgan; it was one of the other ones there where they had the bunks were three on top of each other. Is that typical for tall ships?
You were on the Joseph Conrad.
Joseph Conrad. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's typical of a training ship, which is what the Joseph Conrad was. It was fitted out by Alan Villers, and he actually sailed it with a crew of kids from Australia back to the U.S.
Wow.
With a couple of professional sailors to help out.
One thing I noticed though, so a bunch of us packed into this tiny, three bunks on top of each other. And at these Mystic Sea Music Festivals, a bunch of shantymen, true like working shantymen, will often come together, or people who have learned how to be so. And in order to be a true shantyman on a ship, you have to be able to cut through the noise because you're the one keeping time. But what I learned that night sleeping on that ship is that some of those men are as loud in their sleep as they are on the ships themselves.
Well, some of us have been known to snore a bit.
It was a great experience, though. Oh, also having to do with captains, we have a question. Have you ever performed marriages? Is that a real thing captains do?
Well, I don't know if it's a real thing that captains do very often. Technically, when you're out at sea, and I mean out of territorial waters of any country, theoretically, the answer is yes. My license doesn't permit me to get more than 25 miles away from a port of refuge, though. So I used to tell people, yeah, I can marry you, but it's only good for the duration of the voyage, which in my case was oftentimes a 3-hour day sail.
Gotcha. So it's just like pop, a little bit of ways away and man and wife, and then pop back.
Yeah.
Another question, has Phillip Hole ever performed on a ship?
Actually, he has never performed on a ship. He did do one gig at a place out in the high desert in California, of all places, called Calico. Calico Ghost Town, which is, if you've been to Knott's Berry Farm, they have a little section called Calico. It's a Wild West town section, sort of like Frontierland at Disneyland, something like that. But Calico was originally a silver mining town, which went bust. And then the guy who ended up with Knott's Berry Farm, previous to that, bought the whole town because it only had like 3 or 4 residents and a post office. There were a lot of buildings left there. So he did some historical restoration, and then he did a couple of things that were totally anomalous. He built a small railroad, like a narrow gauge railroad to ride around in as an amusement park. So it was half historical landmark and half amusement park. And over Halloween, I just ran across a thing that advertised my appearance there. It was back in 2009, I think it was. Over the 2 weeks before Halloween, the weekends, they would be open, and they wanted something different. So they asked for Phillip Hole to show up and sing songs. So I just played it as Phillip Hole going to sleep one night and waking up in this strange place, and everything was weird to him. And I played like 3 or 4 sets a day. I was out there for 10 days because they actually put me up in an America Suites hotel, which was brand new. They fed me 3 meals a day when I was working on the weekends. And during the week, they said, listen, we hear you play cowboy songs. If you feel like coming out, why don't you play on the boardwalk for tips, and you can sell your CDs. And a friend of mine who got me the gig there, who was a ranger there, said, listen, don't bother even coming out on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. But Thursday and Friday, good day to come out. So that's what I did. It was dynamite.
Nice. Oh, we have many who love and admire you in Minnesota watching. So we've got Australia, we've got Minnesota. So hello to Rose. Thanks for watching on YouTube.
Hi, Rose.
Another question from Connor, who, by the way, made a good point that if you were on a ship, you'd have to be a singing burial at sea rather than a gravedigger, since you can't really dig graves in the middle of the ocean.
I like those much more. There's no digging involved. Yes, and there's no digging involved.
That's Davy Jones's job. Don't need to worry about that.
There you go.
But he asks, what's your favorite song about death to sing?
Oh, there's so many good ones. I think Anne Boleyn is probably one of my favorites. I remember one of my favorite moments at the New York Renaissance Festival was when the Queen at the time, Anne Alfred, it was like one of those days where lots of tricksy little things were happening within the cast. And Mary, Queen of Scots, her sister, suddenly appeared, hadn't been a member of the cast the whole time. It turns out it was one of the villains who had just died in disguise, snuck on at the last second, and hired you to sing your song about Anne Boleyn, right? Yeah, probably.
And so Mary, Queen of Scots, asks Phillip Hole to sing this very dark song about Queen Elizabeth's mother. And at the end, Queen Elizabeth steps forward, brings Mary, Queen of Scots forward and says, cousin, I'm glad you've met Phillip Hole. You will get better acquainted with him very soon.
Yep. Well, Anne was brilliant. She still is brilliant. But that was a sort of a running gag we had. We didn't do it all the time, but especially on the Queen's birthday. And we'd save it for maybe once or twice a season. We'd do that at the pub sing at the end of the day. And Anne never reacted the same way twice. Sometimes she'd get one time she got really, really angry. I thought she was going to kill me. I really did, which was exactly what she wanted everyone to believe. And I'm cringing all the way over on the other side of the stage. Another time, she's just so overtaken with emotion that she grabs my hand and we go running backstage, and you hear all of these orgasmic noises. And then when we come out, we're each wearing each other's hats.
Oh my God.
We just had a great time with it, but if we had done it all the time, it wouldn't have the impact that it had. Unfortunately, the management did not. The last management that I worked under didn't like that idea. They didn't like
rewriting history.
Well, they didn't like the idea of me playing this song in front of the Queen, because as far as they were concerned, then the Queen would have to have me beheaded. It was that simple.
I guess that's fair. Yeah.
So
I'm just going to remind anyone watching that anyone can ask a question to Rick. So please do ask us your questions in the comments, and we will answer them to the best of our ability. Anything that you might know about either Phillip Hole, the character, or Rick Nestler, the person, feel free to ask now, though we do have a couple questions. Ooh, I like this one. Do you have a favorite joke to tell?
Well, let me see. Yes. A doctor, a lawyer, and a pope all die at the same time. They go up to heaven. They all get there at the same time. Peter looks at him and says, "Okay, fellas, wait here at the gate. I'll be right back with your reservations." So he comes back, and first he talks to the lawyer. And he says, "Oh, okay. Now tell me, why should I let you into heaven?" And the lawyer says, "Well, I was a member of the ACLU, and I worked for social justice all my life, all my professional life, and I did a lot of work pro bono for orphans and widows, and I tried to live the best life I could." Peter goes, "Okay, that works for me." Okay, physician, why should I let you into heaven? The physician says, "Well, I studied real hard in medical school. I studied so hard that I ended up finishing med school a year early. I went for 3 different specialties, and I've worked with Doctors Without Borders. I've done pro bono work all the time with a street clinic. I've lived the best life I can." And Peter says, "Well, that sounds good to me. That's great." And then he turns to the Pope. He goes, "Oh, you're the Pope. Well, I don't have to ask you any questions. 3 of you, follow me." So they walk through the gates of heaven, and about 2 blocks in, they stop. There's this beautiful house there, a nice suburban house there. He points to the lawyer and says, "Okay, this is your place." So they takes him up to the door and lets him in. Beautiful house, opens the door, sunken living room, deep pile carpeting, a wet bar, big 54-inch color TV. Says, this is where you're going to stay." And the lawyer says, "This is great, thanks." He turns to the doctor and goes, "Okay, follow me." So he gets the lawyer and the doctor, and he takes him out another half mile or so. They walk down the road, and there's this huge, beautiful house. And attached to the house, there's a dock with a gorgeous yacht. And there's this, they go out to the yacht, and again, a wet bar and a television and DVR and, oh, the best electronics you can even think of. And he looks at the physician. He says, this is your spot. "This is great," says the doctor. And finally, he turns around to the Pope. He goes, "Okay, Your Excellency, follow me." So they walk, and they walk, and they walk. It takes about a good 45 minutes, an hour, but then they come to this giant castle. Huge, just fantastic. And they cross this drawbridge and they walk into this beautiful courtyard with stationery and a fountain in the middle of it, statuary and a fountain. And they walk up to the front door, and these two huge oaken doors swing open for them, and they walk in. There's this gorgeous entryway with suits of armor and portraits on the walls and stained glass windows. They make a right-hand turn, go through a door, go down a set of steps, go down a second set of steps, go down a third set of steps. Finally, they're 4 levels down below ground. And it's musty down there, and there's moss growing on the walls. You can hear squeaking of little rodents. And they walk down this hall, and St. Peter throws open a door, and there's nothing but a bag with straw, full of straw, and a crucifix up on the wall. And the only light is coming in from an air shaft that runs up 4 stories. And the Pope looks at him and goes, "Hey, wait a minute. What's going on here?" Peter goes, "This is your place." He goes, "Hold it a second. Wait a minute. You got the doctor, you got the lawyer. The lawyer gets this beautiful house, deep pile carpeting, big TV, wet bar. What's going on here?" He goes, "Well, it's like this. Up here, we've got a lot of popes, but that's our first lawyer."
I love that. Like, as someone who tries to craft jokes, the whole time I'm going, where could this go? Oh, it's going here. No, it's not going there. Oh, and didn't expect that. Well done. Well done. All right. So we're coming to the end of our chat, which makes me very sad. So we'll probably finish on a final question. If anyone has a burning question that they would like to ask, please do ask it in the comments. Ask us your questions. But first, I promised everyone at the beginning that I would let you know this drinking game that the Gwendolyn sent me, if you want to join us during the 6 o'clock show. So first of all, I'm going to say drink responsibly, because some of these are dangerous, but here they are. So if you would like to play the game, drink every time you see a pumpkin, every time you get a chill down your spine, every time Phillip Hole says death. Dangerous. Every time you're watching Coal Black Rose and you wish you knew how to play the musical Saw. Every time you see a tarot card. And every time Barely Balanced makes a joke that truly makes you groan. So those are our rules for the evening. Let's see if we've got any final questions. Oh, first of all, we've got a happy Halloween. That's another thing. We're going to be asking you right at the start of our 6 o'clock show, what are your plans for Halloween? It's a bit of a weird year, so do let us know there. But we don't have a final question coming in. So my final question for you is, because I know you do things in the sea music festival community, you do things in the folk festival community, you do things in the Renaissance festival community. Like, how do all those interweave for you? What are their relations to each other?
Well, the way it all worked for me was initially I was a folk singer. Actually, I started out as an actor. Did 2 off-Broadway shows, both of which closed opening night. Realized that I had just spent the last 8 weeks every night rehearsing for this show and didn't make a dime because the only thing I owned in the show was 1 point. Shows don't open, you don't get any money, and you worked for 8 weeks for free. But as a musician, I knew I could, turn over a gig somewhere in a local tavern for like $50 a night at the time. That's how long ago it was. And so I started just playing. I'd always liked playing folk music. I'd played a lot of coffee houses. And in the process, because I have a sort of Catholic taste, that's Catholic with a small c, I have a universal taste. There's lots of different genres I like. I just happened to fall into playing a whole lot of Irish bars for about 3 years. So I was on the Irish pub circuit. And I also ended up playing in working in a cowboy town, sort of like a Western version of a Renaissance fair in Arizona called Rawhide, where the West was fun. So I ended up playing cowboy songs there, and I ended up playing Irish stuff in bars, and that led me to my next leap, which was into the Renaissance fair circuit. When I first went there as a patron, I realized I felt like everybody there had just swallowed the Clancy Brothers repertoire whole. I figured, oh, this will be an easy gig. But then I ended up as the singing gravedigger. And although the Irish do have a wonderful attitude towards death, they're not all expressed by the Clancy Brothers alone. So I ended up doing an awful lot of studying and having a lot of different friends in traditional folk music circles. They suggested a whole bunch of stuff, everything from the Kingston trios to child ballads. And I used all of it. I used all of it as Phillip Hole, the singing gravedigger.
Amazing. I said that was the last question, but we have one final request for you, which is, can you do Phillip Hole's act closing speech?
Certainly. Well, I thank thee, lords and ladies, gentlefolk all, for being such a generous audience. And please, remember this. If thou hast enjoyed what I have performed for thee this fine day, a slight bit of financial remuneration would not be amiss. I thank thee, fare thee well, and may it be a long time before thou dost become a customer of mine.
Splendid. And for anyone curious, Digital Ren Fair is collecting tips for Rick Nestler, Phillip Hole today, and we will be passing them on to him. And you will be seeing the tipping information for all of our performers on the screen throughout the night and in the comments. But this was so wonderful to get to know you better, Rick. Thank you so much for being with us.
It was my pleasure.
And we'll see everybody in the main show. Farewell.
Farewell.